Inside Foos presents FoosTalk Live.
Hi again, everybody. Jim Stevens here at the 2019 Tornado World Championships. As we're talking to John O'Brien, the founder of Foosball Clubs USA. John, it's a program designed to bring kids into the sport of foosball and to use foosball to help out kids, isn't it?
Yes. In fact, when I started the program, it started actually out of a school after-school program that I offered simply for my own school. And after 2 years of having in-house tournaments, I said to the students, "How'd you like to compete against other schools?" And they were like, "Yes, that's great." The problem was there were no other schools. So I found myself taking my table on the road and doing clinics at schools, and one thing led to another. And then about 2 years later, we decided, okay, we really need to do this seriously and start a nonprofit organization that talks the language of schools and shows them how foosball can help them accomplish their mission of reaching out to every student. So that's what we do. We try to help schools reach their students.
It's FoosTalk Live.
You talking to me?
Compelling and lively banter.
Are you going to talk to us?
Talking foosball.
Foosball was how I measured my value as a man. You took that away.
Players and fans, promoters and pros. Unedited and raw.
Talk.
Living in the moment.
We have a lot of important things to talk about.
All while practicing social distancing.
Cool. We'll talk. No big whoop.
Let's get this thing started. FoosTalk Live. Coming to you live from the studios of Inside Foos, it's the 106th episode of FoosTalk Live. Brought to you by Inside Foos, offering monthly subscriptions with access to some of the most exciting matches ever recorded, plus live tournaments, pre- and post-show analysis, interviews, and original programming. Sign up now at InsideFoos.com. Also brought to you by ProtectoFlex, the world's premier foosball safety accessory. Go to Protecto-Flex.com. Brought to you by Rodlock. Practice more, reach less. The best practice tool in foosball. Visit rod-lock.com. Brought to you by 518 Prints, one of the best printers of promotional items and foosball apparel. Visit 518prints.com. Brought to you by Foosballers, the movie. This Joe Hessling, a foosball documentary, is now available as a worldwide download at foosballersthemovie.com. Also brought to you by the USTSO, helping to usher in a new era of competitive foosball. Become a member at usafoosball.com, and brought to you by Foosball Clubs USA, promoting foosball through school systems all over the United States. Visit foosballclubsusa.com and make a donation today. Well, welcome to 106 episodes of FoosTalk Live. Hey there, I'm Tom Robinson. It's a pleasure to have you along once again. We're going to be talking about foosball all night long. And of course, conversation about the sport of foosball is always better when you have someone to share it with, such as the world's greatest play-by-play announcer in the sport of foosball. That would be Jim Stevens. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Tom. Hi, everybody. It's good to be back on a Sunday night with you guys after about 3 weeks. Of course, 2 weeks ago, we were in Las Vegas for the Hall of Fame Classic. And then last year being Easter, we had family obligations. But great to be back on the air with you and Adam and Mark and our special guest tonight. And, of course, also a bit of a celebration of the life of someone who passed away this past week, the great John O'Brien, of course,
yes,
who has done so much for the sport. And, of course, Foosball Clubs USA, such a big part of this show. Such a big part of the sport. And so we will continue to honor what John has done over the past 6-7 years and continue to push the sport in the schools and do everything we can to make sure that that his legacy is remembered.
Yeah, it's a difficult time for a lot of us during this week because of that loss. And of course, in just a few seconds here, we'll chat briefly with Mark Drollette, who's taking over for John for Foosball Clubs USA, and he has some things to say as well. But in the meantime, of course, we must not forget to welcome back to FoosTalk Live one of our co-hosts here, the world butt smoking champion. He just recently went to a big competition in Tucumcari, and he's back now, and he is our FoosTalk Live foodie. That would be Adam Gilson from Ventura.
You went to Tucumcari? How awesome!
I don't even know what Tucumcari is.
It's in New Mexico. They have this flat-topped sort of mountain there, and it's on I-40, and I pass through there every time I go to Texas.
Oh,
see,
no, I've never been there.
It is a place.
Oh.
So
Yeah, I believe you.
you should know
Mhm.
because
believe
you were
you.
there with the
And
Butts-a-Muggin Championship.
Jim,
Yeah. Yeah.
Jim, you're from Southern California, and you don't use
I
the
am.
article "the" in front of highways.
Sometimes I do. I'd say not for interstates. I don't. Everything else I do. When I say
Oh,
the
that's fair.
405, the
That's fair.
10,
Okay.
but for
Oh,
got
interstates
it.
I go I. Yeah, or I say
Okay. All
US.
right.
But
Good.
when I'm
Good.
in LA, heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Although I don't call it the PCH. I call it just PCH.
Good. Okay.
we
All right.
have
Good.
we
Everything
have
makes sense again.
And
we
you
have
live right near the 101, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. The 101 and the 33 and the
Also
126.
known, of course, as
Ventura
Highway.
Highway.
stop. I knew that was
In
coming.
the
Oh,
sun.
come
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Tom,
No,
you love it.
I
know
well,
Tom,
you
you
love
love
America.
America.
Tom
All right.
loves America.
the
Tom
country, not the music necessarily, but that's okay.
They're intertwined, bro.
Now, in this part of the world, we have nicknames for our roads, and
do.
the New York State Thruway is also known as the Bump Way.
Mm.
And it's rarely completely fixed. It's a lot of tires destroyed on that.
It's
highway.
heavily used. It is really heavily
Oh,
used.
yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
question about it. And emphasize the used part of that. But no, it should be a fun show tonight. We're also talking with a guy that ended up at number 9 on our top 50 list.
Yes.
One of the great players of the 1970s. And really, when you look at it, the third highest rated tournament soccer player on our list, behind only Doug Furry and Tom Spear. That should tell you something about the great Dan Kaiser, who will be joining us here tonight.
Yeah, and he's in Pacific Coast time, just like Adam tonight too. So
Yes, sir.
this is remarkable. We got more than one West Coaster tonight. Jim, can we handle that? Is that going to be possible?
We can, because I'm in mountain time, so I'm actually on this side of the country as well. You're sort of the lone wolf out there, Tom, in the eastern part of the U.S.
Hey, I set the standard. Set the standard for the rest of you guys.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
So,
however accurate it might be, we love it.
Ooh. Well, we are also looking forward to chatting with Clay Toomey, who is in Oklahoma this evening, and no one has tried
his favorite state. Yeah, that is Clay's favorite state.
No one has tried to assassinate him yet, from what we understand.
Surprising.
So, Clay, are you with us? Can you hear us? Sounds like Clay.
We hear something.
Clay,
Yeah.
are
Oklahoma Wi-Fi.
Well, he's going to have bow out for. He is in Oklahoma at the tournament, but hopefully we'll get a shout out from Clay in the not too distant future. I thought perhaps in the meantime, though, not to make things too down, but I do want to spend a little time chatting with Mark Drollette, who is now taking over for the late John O'Brien with Foosball Clubs USA. He and I chatted earlier today and had some very interesting things to say about his relationship with John. But here's Mark Drollette from in the Plattsburgh area of upstate New York. So I was wondering if you could share with us, what's your fondest memory of John O'Brien?
He loved the game. He loved the sport.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably the idea that he saw what a benefit the game was and just worked so hard to bring it to more people, more kids. He was really thoughtful. I mean, he, like, when he had an idea, he would discuss it. He was really great to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd come up with an idea, but then it wouldn't be done. It wouldn't be like, hey, this is what we're going to do. He would say, this is something that I want to try. What are your thoughts? And through, conversations with a lot of different people, he would come up with his final plan.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just, man, he was just a great guy to work with.
So did you know of him prior to meeting him? Did you know of what he was doing in his school district before you actually met?
I didn't. I'd fallen out of the foosball circle. Just, work. I'd become a teacher, and that just took up so much time, like going through certifications, classes. So I had stopped playing foosball. I was really heavy into it for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, like traveling, going to tournaments. I hadn't played foosball in a long time. A buddy invited me to that New York State tournament. And that's where I met John. I met him because I saw all these kids running around the tournament room. I was like, hey, there's a 6th grader. There's a 7th grader. Who brought all these kids? And I eventually people were pointing at John, and I went over and talked to him. And he right away he was like, "Oh, wait a minute, you're a foosball player and you're a teacher. Man, we need to talk." And that was it. That's how it all got started for my school, NCCS, with our foosball club. And and he would travel. He'd bring his kids from Oswego to Plattsburgh, or we were up in Champlain. And it was really fun.
Yeah. No, so now with the passing of John, of course, there's a big void left in Foosball Clubs USA. How do you, as the new director, what are your plans, and how do you plan to pick up the mantle now?
Well, man, John did a lot of work to set the foundation. One of the biggest things he did was develop a curriculum for people who, like gym teachers, PE teachers, somebody who doesn't actually play foosball can introduce the sport. And he actually set up trainings for people to be able to help start those programs.
Right.
So he developed like a certification program, like trainers of foosball. So I'm starting the first one actually Monday.
Okay. Wow.
Just tomorrow.
Yeah.
Today's Sunday, right?
That's amazing.
I've been off for a week. We just got off our spring break, so I go back to school tomorrow, and we're starting we have a middle school gym teacher who agreed to pilot the program for us, so she's launching our curriculum for us.
Wow, that's exciting. Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
And of course, this will expand from here once you've got that formula in place and it's working. What are your plans as far as the state of New York, or what about the rest of the country? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm hoping that when we get this launched, we're going to advertise it, get it out on the internet. I'm hoping you guys will help share that information.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the curriculum is available, so it's on people can contact us through Foosball Clubs USA webpage.
Cool.
And we are looking for, John did set up the idea of having an advisory board. So we do have board members, and Deb Robinson and Sandy. So she and Deb and I are still meeting and trying to come up with the ideas to keep going with John's vision.
I gotcha.
He did ask. We did find a treasurer, so that was one of the last searches he did.
This certainly is one of those occasions where we wish it was a happier moment for us to talk on FoosTalk Live. But I greatly appreciate what you're going through right now, and we're all standing by and waiting to see how things go. But at the moment, we just want to remember John as he was, and the kind of contributions he made to this sport. It's immeasurable at this stage, because he kind of like the Johnny Appleseed of foosball, spreading it through schools throughout the country.
It is pretty amazing. I mean, I'm just picking up pieces, and he just sent out. I mean, I just found out about 6 tables in the last couple of months.
Wow.
That went out to schools all over the country. So he really had things really, really rolling.
Right.
And it was just it's a bummer, but we're gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I understand he was working right up to the end, which is that sounds just like John O'Brien for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Extraordinary. Well, Mark, our condolences on your loss here, because I know that not only were you working together, but you're also good friends. His loss will be felt for years to come. At any rate, we appreciate you being with us, and here's to anything we can do for you and Foosball Clubs USA. All you got to do is pick up the phone, send a message, and we're right there for you.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Oh, you're welcome, Mark. And thanks so much for taking time to talk to us tonight.
Okay, thanks.
All right, take care. There's Mark Drollette from the Plattsburgh area of upstate New York, now currently the executive director for Foosball Clubs USA, of course, with the absence now of John O'Brien, who passed away this last week. And of course, guys, I got to say, this moment is, I think it's time for us to really think about honoring John, I think the way he would like it, and maybe sample a cold one. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, John, a guy that enjoyed making sure that people had fun, and certainly that's what he did at the schools. And Mark Drollette, a great guy, really the perfect man to replace and carry on the legacy of John O'Brien. So,
Right.
John is
Absolutely.
still very much alive in foosball. There's no question about it. What his name means, what his work has provided for so many players around the country. And as you said, Tom, we're here to help. Anything that is needed, we will be there to help continue to do what John wanted to do.
Yeah, if you feel the need, we highly encourage you to visit their website, foosballclubsusa.com, and make a donation. This last weekend, in fact, yesterday, we had our first monster version of the Smashdown here in Albany and did a fundraiser. We raffled off a couple of cornhole, special tornadoes themed cornhole boards with the beanbags, by the way. And we raised some good money to give to Foosball Clubs USA. It was a lot of fun, and people gave generously and bought lots of raffle tickets to for a chance at those unique cornhole boards. But anything you can do, anything you can think of with your local DYP, do take some time out to think about raising some money for those guys, because they're doing some great work out there. Adam,
Yep.
now I know that you had mentioned there was a couple of tributes online. Did you have one in particular you wanted to read?
Well, there was one that his sister is a beautiful one that his sister wrote, but I wasn't able to get a hold of her
Okay. Okay.
to read it, so I don't feel comfortable reading it online or without permission. But I can tell you this, as somebody who has spent a significant portion of my life as an educator, be it teaching English or violin or anything like that, foosball as well when I can. I can tell you that there was something in the flashback that we heard in John's voice when he talked about just the idea coming
Mm-hmm.
to him to do that, that is so recognizable and so relatable anytime you have that eureka moment. And it's
Mm-hmm.
so moving and touching to hear that a fellow educator who had dedicated his life to do that, because what he's doing is sharing his love for foosball and his connection with foosball through the familial connection that we all feel with foosball, with each other, and
Yes.
to hear that really puts an exclamation point on a legacy that is not only been impactful up to now, but is going to be far-reaching for, I think, pretty much the rest of the history of foosball in the United States and probably
Sure.
even beyond.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a generational thing, obviously. And Jim, I heard you mention earlier, it's nice to have new foosball players who are not the what is it that you said? The product of procreation rather than
Yeah. Yeah, it's good
Wow.
to create new players instead of just procreate them. And that's certainly something that John has certainly done over the past few years, and he will be greatly missed. But you know what? Let's drink an IPA in his honor.
I think that's a great idea. What Jim and I like to do right about this time is to reveal our favorite IPA. And pray tell, what would that be this week, Jim?
There are several, maybe 5, maybe 10 really great breweries in this country. And one of them is up in Northern California, north of San Francisco Bay, a brewery called Russian River Brewing Company.
Oh.
And I know if you're IPA fans, you have, I think, 3 different times on the show, I have had a Pliny the Elder out of Russian River Brewing. And to me, Pliny the Elder, I think, is probably my favorite beer ever.
All time favorite.
So tonight I've got something a little different. I've got their version of a hazy IPA called Mind Circus. It's the Mind Circus Hazy IPA from Russian River Brewing Company, 7% alcohol. Mind Circus IPA has a mild bitterness and a thick, luscious mouthfeel. Dominantly herbaceous and grassy with moderate tropical notes, as well as some bright citrus. This unique hazy IPA gains its flavor of grapes and grass from the Nelson hops and its tropical notes of pineapple and mango from the Strata hops. It is unfiltered, leaving a haze and some yeast for more texture. Oats were also added to add to the softer mouthfeel and hazy appearance. So for me tonight, it's a Mind Circus. Let's have a drink. Oh boy,
the Mind Circus.
Oh man, that is outstanding.
Yeah, the Mind Circus.
Really good. Russian River Brewing Company. If you're ever up in Northern California on the Russian River, stop in, because I'm guessing the beer there is got to be really good.
Yeah.
What about you? What about you guys?
Adam, when I hear the words Mind Circus, I think of you. So anyway,
So do
what are you
I.
drinking?
So, I am continuing my climb up or I guess I'm doing my own little pub crawl through Ventura, because we have about 78,000 microbreweries within about a block from me. So the one that I'm trying this week is the Leashless Brewing, and I think that's
Leashless.
Yeah, I think it's leash, like, a leash, but there's no leash, so it's less. Leashless.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a surfing thing, like the surfboard has
Correct.
a leash, whatever. I don't know. Anyways, I'm breaking ranks, and instead of doing my usual hazy, which they looked very good, I tried their V-Town IPA, which I like because it's just doing the whole Ventura thing. We're a beach town that's not really near the beach because there's no real good access to it, which is kind of weird. But anyways, let's have a try here, because it says it's got aromas of navel oranges and mangoes, which is what you'd expect, and it's crisp. So let's give it a try here. Yeah. I think it needs to open up a little bit, but It's not bad. It's not a hazy.
Okay.
But I expected that. I knew that going in, and so I'm going to see how this sits up in the next about 15, 20 minutes or so. But it is very, very good.
Sits up. That's quite a technical term, by the way. Sits up.
Thank you. I have Wikipedia.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going straight for the heart tonight, guys. It's going to be New England's original IPA. And I'm sure you've heard of the Boston brewery called Harpoon.
Mm-hmm.
So Harpoon this is their special IPA. It's hoppy, it's balanced, it's crisp, and that's straight to the point. 6% alcohol by volume. Let's pop a top here and see what's up in Boston at the Harpoon.
It's pronounced Harpoon.
Harpoon.
Come on, Tom.
That's right,
Harpoon. Get a car.
The Boston. All right, Boston, Massachusetts. Oh, that's happy, all right. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
happy.
That's
from
wicked.
Harpoon.
That is wicked. Oh, there's a wicked storm coming. Better watch it. Better pack your car. Woo. Okay. So there you have it. Let's raise a glass, guys. I think that it's only fair at this stage, because of course we're remembering the wonderful life of John O'Brien and his legacy in the field of foosball and in teaching new kids how to play this sport. Here's to John O'Brien.
John O'Brien and Foosball Clubs USA. Here's to you guys.
Our honor group of the week. Well.
Cheers.
It's never easy to cope with people that you've known passing away. And obviously this is something that we as human beings are always coping with because, life is finite, and there's nothing we can do necessarily to change that. It just seems sometimes it's just not fair when the good ones like John are taken. It's hard to face.
For sure.
But to more cheerful things, we have things happening all over the country. Tournaments are popping up like daisies, and we have a lot of great tournaments to look forward to in the very near future. Several of which, of course, next week is Florida State's, I believe it is.
And we got Oklahoma State going on now.
Oklahoma State is happening right now. We have something that was just announced recently. Michigan has now got a date coming up in the end of the summer.
Nice.
So
the big one on the horizon, of course, is Texas State Championship. Steve Murray and Dave Raddick and company do such a great job with that. And that is a major championship. There's basically 5 major championships each year. We just had one 2 weeks ago, which we're going to talk more about here in a few minutes in Las Vegas at the Hall of Fame Classic.
Yeah.
Next one on the horizon is the Texas State Championships, where you get that number of players, you get that level of competition that really makes for a major championship event. So looking forward to that. That's Labor Day weekend, the last weekend of May, down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And again, Steve and David and everybody do a tremendous job with that event. The hotel is as good as any for any event anywhere. The competition, I'm going to try some new things out this year.
Yes,
but always so much fun to go down there.
I noticed they're publicizing they're going to be doing their open doubles Swiss style. It's going to be more like a monster.
It's starting,
style.
Guys. It's starting.
Yeah,
it is. Thunderdome Fallout.
Right?
Here we go.
I love it. Thunderdome Fallout. That works, and I think that that'll be an interesting to see what players think, and if it's successful, of course, this might become a staple during these
for sure.
major tournaments.
And we think it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're headed in that direction. And we also though had a great time 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas. And Adam and I were both there. Some great memories coming out of that, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that in our top 5.
But first, we need to reminisce a bit. It's time once again for the FoosTalk Live Flashback. With great moments in foosball history, this is a FoosTalk Live Flashback.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 1998 Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Dan Kaiser. Until about 2 weeks ago, I didn't know there was a Hall of Fame. So it's very exciting for me to be here. And beyond that, walking back into a tournament hall after all the tournaments and all the years, it's really, really fun. I just wish that I would have kept playing so I could come out here and play this weekend. I was laughing with some of the guys here. I've been retired long, some of you guys have been around, okay? But I did get a chance, after I got the call a couple weeks ago, to play the table a few times, and I want to congratulate whoever made this thing. It's a great table. Steps beyond the table that we played on for years. And so I want to say something on behalf of the players. With the resurgence of the game, I really hope that all the people that are playing, the prize money and first places and the awards and everything continue to grow for the players. I think that there's huge sacrifices made by the people, the champions, the world champions, to compete at world-class levels. I know that everyone appreciates the amount of sacrifice, so my wishes are with you, and thank you.
Listen in next time for another great moment in foosball history. It's FoosTalk Live Flashback. Well, there's an extraordinary moment there, being inducted into the Foosball Hall of Fame in 1998.
Yeah. You know, the Hall of Fame was created in 1986 when Johnny Lott inducted 10 names, and then Steve Murray and I kind of revitalized it in 1995. And in 1996, we started to induct more players. Doug Furry went in 96, Jim Wiswell in 97, and then the obvious choice after that, Dan Kaiser. Yeah. And I remember that this is the only time I've met Dan Kaiser. Tonight basically will be the second time, although there actually was one earlier meeting of sorts, which I'll talk about a little later with Dan. But it was the first time I'd met him. And I remember I was kind of, I don't know if intimidated is the right word, but you really felt his presence. You knew that this was one of the great players of the greatest decade, the greatest era of foosball. And he was such a nice guy, Mm-hmm. Really was just honored to be there. Had no connection with foosball since 1981 and the crash of TS, which I'm sure we'll talk to him about. But it was really neat to see him there. And I know it was he had a lot of fun that weekend, and it was an honor to meet him. The interesting thing is that he talked about being having been retired longer than some of the players had been alive. He had been retired about 17 years when we inducted him.
Wow.
And that was 24 years ago.
Jeez. That's intense. It's amazing how much time has slipped by since then. But yeah, that's extraordinary. I'm looking forward to chatting with Dan. I think that he can give us some great perspective, especially of that amazing TS era. Incidentally, guys, I noticed we have a refugee amongst us this evening. A refugee from a 9-year-old's birthday party. 2 birthday parties.
Continue to find ways to offend me. I'm the only minority in the room, and now I'm a migrant.
Mark is completely unoffendable. I promise you, he is unoffendable. Yeah. So yes. I don't buy it for a second, Mark.
There is an alien in our chat. So thank you for you insensitive lout. I will just I know it's pretty disruptive. Thank you for inviting me onto the show one more time. I did want to say one quick thing, quickly, because I missed the moment, man. Hey Dan, I know you can't hear yourself, but we'll talk to you in a second. I want to say that John O'Brien helped educate my kids. I met John O'Brien in the middle of I met John O'Brien in the middle of the pandemic, and we were homeschooling we started to homeschool our kids, and John O'Brien, all of his kids were homeschooled.
Yep,
and
they were.
I spent like an hour with him and giving me insight, because his kids are incredibly educated, talented, successful, and he homeschooled every single one of his kids, and it's the
Mm-hmm.
most beautiful thing. And that's a special man.
Yep.
And I had these long conversations with John O'Brien, and he was so much more than just an educator who loved foosball. He was so strategic and so savvy and so clever. And he's an entrepreneur and an innovator. And that's a man who could have done anything. He really could. I'm not
Right.
overselling it. I'm not embellishing. This is a super talented diplomat who, in the end there, he was working with Fareed in the ITSF. Everyone recognized his talents and elevated him, and he was in incredibly influential positions. And I trust and know the man enough in 2 years, by the way, like 2 years and maybe a dozen conversations,
Mhm.
maybe. I know that man enough that he's put Foosball Clubs USA in the best of hands, and that he's set up as best as it can be set up. So just to remember John O'Brien. Anyway, here I am. We gotta just jump in the middle of your show, and now we got what are you guys doing? A top 5? I don't even know what the top 5 is.
Yeah, you weren't there, buddy. You weren't in Vegas. It's top
Right.
5 takeaways from Vegas, so you can just sit back and listen. And be educated.
I have plenty of
How is that?
takeaways from Vegas.
How
I
is
have
that
plenty
even
of takeaways
playing
from
it?
Vegas.
All right.
Wait,
All right.
wait.
We'll let Mark, you all right? Throw in your top 5, even if you weren't there. I love it.
Fine. Yeah,
Let's do this.
Top
Tom.
5 takeaways from Vegas for the Hall of Fame Classic. Here it comes.
Time once again for the FoosTalk Live Top 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number.
It's all you, Adam.
There's a scene in the movie Beetlejuice, if you recall that movie, and the main characters, Alec Baldwin and, oh my gosh, Gina Davis, they pass away, and in the middle of their hiatus from reality and not knowing what's going on, they step outside of their home, and they're hit in the face with this scary desert landscape, this craziness, this cartoonish, weird sandworm situation that's just horrifying to them. They scream and they run back inside. I say that because that was the only thing I could think of for that half a second that I stepped out from the Golden Nugget on Fremont Street into Fremont Street, saw the bright lights, got hit in the face by the everything, the elementals, as it were, and I ran back inside and went back up to the booth, and I was just like, Jim, hold me, man, what's going on?
Yeah. Oh, it was a tender moment for sure.
It was a tender moment, but I say all this to underscore my number 5 takeaway. That it's Vegas, baby, and it's been 3 years. And even though I didn't go out for more than a tenth of a half of a second, it was good to be back in Vegas because there is nothing like a foosball tournament in Vegas. It was phenomenal, as always, even though there might have been some sandworms out there. Number 5, it's Vegas, baby.
Mm-hmm. Dune, good Dune illusion there. It is Vegas, and you can the cigarette smoke in the casino, the sound of the slot machines. I did not make it out the door to Fremont. I peeked out, and then I turned right back around and ran, jumping into your arms, Adam, at some point. But I said no, can't do it, not again, no. For me, I'm gonna bring it back to foosball a little bit, but I don't disagree with what you had to say. For me, at number 5. We always, last year at the Tornado World Championships, Ryan Moore triples, and suddenly we're back on the old Ryan Moore is the best player on Tornado bandwagon, and certainly that for that weekend was the case. But then you go to Vegas and you see Tony Sprademan, who appeared to be in tip-top shape. Tony tripled, he won singles, he won doubles with Robert Mares, and then won mixed doubles as well with Ellen Moon, and was not really even tested. That's how good Tony was at this event. Now, given Ryan Moore was there, it's Vegas, baby, right? And so, but the competition was stiff. Obviously, some great players there. But it was Tony doing his thing, tripling at a major championship, continuing to make a statement about who is really the best player in the world. And again, as great as Ryan can be, and we saw it at the Worlds, tournament in and tournament out, consistently, one ball after another, there is only one player that you can really talk about being the best in the world right now. And that's Tony, because of his approach to the game, which is to play every ball, no matter what. And it's amazing to see. And I think all of us need to appreciate what we're seeing with this incredible player who once again demonstrated what he's all about in Las Vegas 2 weeks ago as he tripled. So my number 5, it's Tony Spredeman.
Well, Mark, you can chime in now if you've got something to contribute with the takeaways.
No, you know what? I want to. At the very end, I have 2 things, but I want to hear these guys who are actually there first. I don't want to suck the oxygen out of the room and take up time with my nonsense. Let's wait till the end.
Oh,
and I'll just.
Wow.
Well,
you've grown as a person.
So gracious.
No.
So gracious.
Not at all.
Never mind. Okay. All right.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 4.
So I've been tracking these results in experts at tournaments this past year or so that I've been actively involved. Expert doubles was won by Linda Lee, great player out of Canada, and
forward.
Brian Lepke playing forward. Linda Lee, the first time I ever played her was when I first came back to foosball playing wise a couple years ago, and it was at Colorado State in 2018, and she just absolutely slaughtered me. It was amazing. She's so good. Brian Lepke, great player, but the fact that a mixed team won expert is great.
A designated
I
mixed
love
team,
it.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course expert singles, although you kind of expect this, but still, Sullivan Rue winning expert singles. Now she won expert
first time
singles.
that's ever happened, by the way. First time that's ever happened where a woman has been the forward in the doubles, expert doubles, and a woman has won expert singles as well.
Wow.
It is at a major, because at Bart O it happened, but Bart O is
at a
definitely
major.
At a major, and it was great. So I mean, my takeaway, I don't know where I want to go with that, except for like, where is the ceiling here? How high can it go? You know, I've seen Sully's been knocking on the door of the pro event. I know she won pro doubles at Kentucky State. I believe that was last year. But where can it go, especially at these larger tournaments? So for me, my takeaway for number 4 from Vegas is the lady players and how they're doing an expert and where they're going to go from there.
No, and I don't disagree. I think it was an amazing performance by both of them. I'm going to throw one more woman into the mix here with my number 4. My number 4 is Sully and Midori. You know, we have been talking about them the last couple of years as the 2 best lady players on the American Tour, and certainly 2 of the best in the world, 2 ladies who are capable of winning the multi-table world championship in France here in July. But in this event, Sully and Midori, of course, won women's doubles. Midori won singles as well. And of course, Sully wins expert singles. I mean, what a performance by these 2 incredible ladies who are great friends, great partners, etc. But to watch the continuing growth of Sully, the continuing greatness of Midori, especially as we look forward to July in France, as the Americans try to defend their gold medal in the Women's World Cup event. And also, as both of those ladies pursue, as I said, the World Singles Championship, the biggest honor, the biggest title in the sport. So again, opening up a major championship, the cream rises to the top. And for me at number 4, also the ladies, in this case, Sully and Midori.
And speaking of Midori, we were trying to have her do a report from the Hall of Fame for us on air, but she lost her voice. It sounded like she might have been gargling, I don't know, what do they say, razor blades or something? Because it was ABC. I mean, she had absolutely no voice, but did all that winning. That's
that's Vegas for you.
Oh, there you go.
That's Vegas.
Oh,
yeah. Is gargling razor blades a thing? Is that like
go to YouTube, buddy, or TikTok.
I guess
one of the 2.
Circus folk thing, Tom.
It
Again,
exists.
offending everybody, Tom.
I didn't make it up. I swear.
No, Vegasitis. It's Vegasitis. That's all I'm going to say. And we all had it afterwards. Adam had a little more than Vegasitis.
Yes.
But the rest of us had Vegasitis.
Well, there you have it.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 3.
Those of you who know me don't know that I'm an introvert. And
What?
Wait, no. Those of you who don't know me don't know that I'm an introvert. Yeah.
What?
Yes. I don't. I love people. I love them deeply and dearly.
Do you really, though?
I've got
I do.
IPA coming up my nose here. What are you talking about?
I'm just let me get there. Come on. This is I tell stories. That's why you guys pay me. So the point is that it's hard for me at foosball tournaments, especially when I'm covering them. I expend a lot of energy to try to be interesting for 12 hours a day, and that's not even a joke. Like to be insightful is hard. So I've been asked Mark. So one of the things that I do is I just go into a little cave in my room in the mornings, right? And I don't like going out and doing anything. So when I got texted on Friday morning from Jim, and Jim said, "Hey, you want to come have breakfast with us?" Us being him and Brad Anderson, And I thought, okay, sure, whatever. You know what? Those guys, I love Jim. I've just met Brad that night before, but I was like, yeah, I dig this. I dig it. So I go down there, and I can't even like we got to get to other things tonight, but it was 2 hours because Iceman showed up halfway through the breakfast, and for about 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours we're sitting there, and I'm hearing some of the greatest stories from their experiences, from everything they were doing, from the World Cup of days gone by to other tournaments, to all these just different things, and how they have done what they've been doing for decades now. And it was surreal. Like, normally I'm a talkative guy, I like to chat, I like whatever, but I know when the hell to shut up. And just sitting there listening to these stories was amazing. And I don't even care if there was a dead raccoon on the wall at that weird restaurant we were at. It was still my number 3 takeaway was breakfast in Vegas.
Yeah, there was a dead raccoon on the wall along with a couple of deer, etc. But no, and that's something that Brad and Iceman and I have done, over the years, traveling internationally, going to tournaments in France and Germany and Austria and other places, Italy. We always make sure we have a breakfast, right? We sit down in the morning, have a cup of coffee, eat some breakfast, get ready for the day. And it really is special. And we hadn't done it in a long time until Vegas this year. It had been 6, 8, 10 years since we have done this. And Adam happened to be there. And again, it was magical. And I'm glad you brought this up, Adam, so I could address it, because I don't have it on my top 5. I should have. But it was really an awesome breakfast, and to be able to reminisce and think about that morning in Hamburg at the very first World Cup. When we ran down there, and I think Iceman told the story here on Thursday, it was a difficult setup for us at the very first World Cup. They didn't, it wasn't going to work for us. So we got up early and went down there and reset everything and did it our way. And they came in and said, "Oh, okay, we get it. This is great." And the rest is history, right? But a lot of those kind of stories that we love to talk about and reminisce about, and Adam happened to be there. So thanks for bringing that up. My number 3, coincidentally, a little bit, I suppose, is the continuing growth of Adam Gilson as a commentator, as a broadcaster, as a reporter, as a newsman, so to speak. And each tournament that I get to work with Adam, there's growth. There has been, I mean, from the very first time at the Nationals last year in Denver, when he came in, and I could tell the talent was there. Obviously, very bright guy who knows the game, good communicator. But he was a little all over the place. At times he was great. At other times he was, whatever. You know that, Adam.
Yeah.
But as time has gone by, as we've done these one event after another, Adam has really gotten good, and our chemistry together. I really love our working dynamic when we're on the air live doing foosball matches. And I think he's underrated as a strategist and as a guy who understands the game. I think the more you listen to him, the more you appreciate his knowledge of history and of the game itself. So for me, again, that's one of my takeaways. One of my top 5 takeaways is Adam's continuing growth. And Adam is an excellent broadcaster who I'm very proud to work with. So my number 3, continued growth of Adam Gilson.
Wow. That was so cool.
Yeah, I'm blushing. Let's roll the next one.
FoosTalk Live Top 5. Number 2.
No, seriously, I'm blushing. I'm embarrassed. I don't even know what to say to that. But thanks, Jim. As my dad says, I am because you is. So if I do well, it's only because of the shoulders of giants I get to stand on. And that includes Mark too, even though Mark probably doesn't care. But
not so loud.
Now Anywho, let's see. What's my number 2? Oh, here's my number 2. This is one of my favorite moments from the weekend. And this is an umbrella thing. Okay, so Twitch. We were on Twitch a couple times over the weekend, and I love it because I like the format. I like people being able to talk to us. Blah blah blah. But this is my favorite part, was that at one point somebody in the comments asked if Jim wanted to, if he was going to die if he had to commentate another amateur doubles finals or something like that. And I asked Jim that because I'm in charge of asking the questions, because it's fun to talk to the people. I love talking to the people, and I love the interactions. Because people, all we do besides play foosball is talk about playing foosball, right? This is what we do. So to have the Twitch format is great for that. So anyways, I asked Jim that question. He completely ignores it. It's like I just asked him if, like, do you have a third arm growing out of your forehead? And he just like went on like a pro and moved on from it. But this is what I love so much about the Twitch format and what we were doing in that time frame is that seriously, I think, Jim, it was probably about 14. I think it was 14 or 15 minutes later. You came back to that question and you answered it. And you answered it in your way, in your time, and in a way that made a lot of sense. And the guy, and I forgot who it was, who said, "Oh, okay, thanks," in the chat thing in Twitch. So for me, my number two isn't just so much Jim's professionalism, and it's not so much Twitch's technological um, amazingness that we can chat with people. It's not so much people's curiosity with foosball. It's just all of those things, and seeing foosball being looked at through a different kind of lens through this technology that we have now with us, and with the professionalism that happens with Inside Foos, and with all of that, it just amazes me. So that's my number two. All of that, number
Well,
two.
aren't we glad we stumbled into this broadcaster's orgy? Let me just say this, okay? Um, I'm glad I can be the nuisance and the chaos and the deal, and I'm screw you guys. Keep going.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Mark, for that. No, and I think we're really just scratching the surface of Twitch as well. It's such a tremendous interactive format, right? And I think we're even going to be experimenting with it here at FoosTalk Live.
Mm-hmm.
But the interaction, when we first started this 2 years ago, Tom, you remember,
Yeah.
my thing was I wanted to host a talk radio show, right? I wanted to hear and we both did, but we wanted to hear from the listeners. We wanted to be able to interact with the listeners and engage in conversations with foosball fans all around the world. And I think probably we've gotten to the point where we understand Twitch is probably the best way to do that.
Yes.
And it's certainly in Las Vegas. There were times I looked forward to it. It's like we have some dead time. We're in between games. We're after a match. Let's field some questions. Let's talk to the people.
Yeah.
And Adam is so good at that as well. And Mark too. Mark wasn't there, but Mark is too. And we love that. The three of us, right? All four of us love that, right? And so I think it's coming. Here's my number two. I don't remember what day it was, but I was up at the stage and Donald Wilson says to me, or someone says to me, and someone asked me, Jim, can you commentate the junior singles final? And usually I'm like, back in the day, I was like, no, of course not. I only do pro matches, and that's it. No, nothing below pro at worst. But that's evolved and changed over the years to where I really do embrace the idea of young players, of lower rated players, because it's a chance to educate, right? So there's this junior singles final, and it's Nathan Hamm, whose father is instrumental in Foosball Clubs USA in the Denver area. He's a principal at a school. They have a program. And Nathan has come out of it, his son, Nathan Hamm, right? Hamm. And he's going up against the young California player, Ethan Nguyen. Okay. A couple hours later, I walked up to the stage and Donald Wilson says to me, Jim, sorry about that. Jim, I know it was about an hour and a half match long. Sorry about that. And I was thinking, man, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, it was these two young players, right? So methodical, both of them. Every 5-row possession, thought out, good execution. Every 3-row possession, I get it on the 3-row. I adjust my goalie rods. I come back. I reset my hands. I set the ball up. Every one of the possessions was methodical, well thought out. It was a chess game. These two young players on table one in a match that went 2 sets, 2 out of 3s, 6 games, an hour and a half long. And I want everybody to go and watch it and listen to it. It's at InsideFoods.com. It's the junior singles final, Nathan Hamm versus Ethan Nguyen. And I really enjoyed it as a teaching moment to be able to not only kind of knowing that these two players were going to watch it later, so I gave them some tips along the way, but also just being able to kind of work with them strategically as the match went on. And of course, doing top-notch foosball matches, open matches. Last year's singles final between Tony and Ryan at the Worlds was just ridiculously good. But so was this. All right, these two young future stars, both of them, playing so smartly on table number one, and I got to be there to kind of do it with them for an hour and a half, and it was a blast. So my number two was the junior singles final from Las Vegas.
Sounds like you're foreshadowing This could be a pro match in the very near future between the same two
It
players.
was played like a pro match. It really
Yeah.
was. And these are two guys who have not been playing more than a couple of years, maybe 3.
Wow.
And yet we're so into it, really doing it the right way. Again, Nathan Hamm coming out of that Foosball Clubs USA system,
Mhm.
Ethan Nguyen out of Southern California. And he has been, believe me, the players out there have seen what he is about and have made sure they also made sure he learned to play the right way. But to have these two young players doing it the right way on table number 1 and playing great foosball was just a joy to cover.
That's great.
FoosTalk Live proudly presents the top 5. Number 1.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but last year's first technical major of 2021 coming out of COVID-ish, out of COVID, was Texas State, right? Is
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
And then the second major would have been nationals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So Texas State to me, I wasn't there, but I know it was big. Everybody, of course, you knew everybody's going to be there. And then I'm going to give you a number. The number is 67. That was the amount of tables at nationals. And then we talked at the end of the year, what's going to happen as the next year progresses, when we start kind of coming more out of COVID, as the momentum of people just wanting to get back together again changes. What's going to happen? And then we got our first major of this year, which is Hall of Fame, and the amount of tables there, there's your other number is 60. 67 last year, 60 this year. There's a lot going on behind those numbers. That's not the best metric to gauge what's going on, but you know that there's something going on there as far as the amount of tables that they do have there prepared to deal with the amount of people they expect. And you still expect there to be a lot of international players not showing up due to COVID things and things like that. But my takeaway from that tournament that the first ones that I went to 20 years ago had 120, 130 tables, now has 60, and that's less than the amount that they had last year. Now, this is not a knock on IFP. This is not a knock on anything. This is looking at where does foosball go from this year going forward, post-COVID, getting post-COVID-ish. I don't know. I'm not a prognosticator. It was something that just popped in my head that I noticed, and that was my takeaway. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it neutral? I don't know. But it's something to think about going forward. Where do we go from here? That's my number 1 takeaway from
Interesting.
that weekend.
Yeah. Interesting. So post-COVID, how did that influence where we are now? Now, of course, you can almost throw last year out the window, right? It was kind of the transition time. Everybody was going to extremes. But now we've sort of landed, haven't we? And now it's kind of time to see where we really are at. And maybe what Adam says is kind of suggestive of that. I had not thought of that, Adam, until you brought it up just now, but it's a really interesting way of looking at where we are. And I guess as we move forward to the next major, to the next tournaments, we'll kind of get a better feel for the turnouts, which may have been a little down in Vegas, to the number of tables at each event, which certainly is suggestive of the number of expected players, although format can factor into that as well, as it will at Texas State with the Swiss system. But that's a very interesting thing. And I think as this year goes on, and it's kind of our job here at FoosTalk Live to sort of be reporters and sort of see this trend or in kind of comment on it. So we'll kind of see where it goes. But I hear you. I get you. That was not my number 1 takeaway. My number 1 takeaway for me. And as you guys have all noticed, I'm working a fewer tournaments this year. So the tournaments kind of, for me, take on a little bit of a different feel. And certainly Las Vegas, a tournament I really wanted to go to. And one of the primary reasons I wanted to go to this tournament, not only to work with Adam and work with Inside Foods and do our thing and to be with the people and get back out on tour at a major championship, but it was also to recognize the history of the sport. And that means the Hall of Fame ceremony, which I've always had the honor of hosting. And again, this year as well. And the 3 players who were inducted, and they've been inducted now or on the verge of being inducted for 2 years, 3 people that are very close to me. Tom Yora, of course, someone who worked with me for years in the booth, someone I've traveled internationally with, hung out with, stayed at the hotel with, had dinners with, stayed at his house in Florida. Tom and I are great friends. Charles McIntosh, of TornadoFoosball.com, North Carolina State Foosball, a guy I've worked closely with, worked several tournaments for Charles, worked with him at TornadoFoosball.com. Also a great player, etc. Very close to him. And then there's Christina Fuchs, and this is my biggest takeaway: is Christina Fuchs was there. Tom and Charles were not. Christina was there to accept, and I know how nervous she was to stand up on stage and accept this honor. But I was there, and I said it in my speech in Las Vegas, that I was there. I saw the very first ball Christina Fuchs ever played on a foosball table. The very first ball, right? It was November of 1989. And I watched her, and she picked up the game quicker than anyone I'd ever seen. And a lot of that, she just had a natural feel for defense. But I also know the hardships that Christina had been through: rheumatoid arthritis, diagnosed at 16, and what that means not only to her personally and physically, but also as in terms of how she can compete on a foosball table, and what she had to go through in order to be competitive, and the adjustments she had to make. And so to hear her speech and to hear Liz speak about her and to be part of that, a player who absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, one of the greatest defensive lady goalies of all time, a player who did it despite her hardships, despite her quote unquote handicap. It was really very, very, very moving for me to be part of it, to see it, to see how much it meant to her, to see all the friends that she has in foosball, and to be able to look back and put her into context historically with the best lady foosball players in the history of the sport, the best goalies, the best players in the history of the sport, and to be part of that. So for me, my number one takeaway was the Hall of Fame ceremony, and in particular, Christina Fuchs.
And kudos to you, Jim, for the ceremony itself. I mean, you did a wonderful job in hosting that, by the way. Watched it from beginning to end, and just looked like an amazing time. And everybody who's there was really wrapped in what was happening on stage.
Thank you, Tom.
Kudos. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, so that's our takeaway from the Hall of Fame. Of course, next year, Hall of Fame will be coming around again, and who knows how this list might change? Who knows? But
Scotty Weidman.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Well, since we're on the topic of the Hall of Fame, of course, I think it'd be remiss if we didn't welcome our special guest, who is a Hall of Fame member. He came in at number 9 on the FoosTalk Live Top 50 Foosball Players of All Time. As you recall, back in January, as we revealed that top 10 list, a hotly contested list at times, but in this case, I think the top 10 was dead on. And he was at number 9, and we do want to welcome to FoosTalk Live for the very first time. Please welcome Dan Kaiser. Dan, are you with us?
I am, thank you.
Dan, how are you?
I'm good. Nice to hear from you guys and listen to the show. And it's been very fun.
Yeah, no, it's this has gotten to be kind of a thing we do, kind of like Sunday nights, just hanging out together and just passing around the different quips. And of course, with Adam and Mark, you just never know what's going to happen next. So
you guys work well together.
Thanks.
You're saying I'm predictable, Tom? Is that what you're saying?
Jim, you keep this show
Hi,
on
Dan.
the rails.
You're vanilla ice cream, and
yeah, thank you.
We're smoking crack over
vanilla
here.
with a little rum in it. Hey, Dan, I just wanted Jim Stevens here, and Dan, I don't know, it's been 24 years, I think, since you and I actually stood together as we inducted you into the Hall of Fame. And again, it was an honor to do so as a student of the game, as someone who started in the 1970s. Certainly, I was aware of what you had accomplished and what you did, and I think, Tom mentioned that top 50 list that we did here a few months ago, and you can't imagine how tough that was to cover so many decades and so many eras of foosball and different tables and try to make a top 50. But it's phenomenal, that you were at number 9 and well deserved. The only 2 TS players who came out in front of you were Doug Furry and Tom Spear. And Tom, of course, did quite a bit more on Dynamo and Tornado as well. But, one of the things I think we really want to talk about tonight, and we've had guys like Mike Bowers on the show and Ken Allwell and others who have reflected back on that era, on the 1970s, or the $1 Million Tour, and how things were for you guys as professional players and how it all came crashing to an end in 1981. So I know Tom's got a few questions for you, but we're gonna get back to that here in a minute. But I just want to say thank you for joining us tonight. It's really an honor to have you on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So, Dan, it's always customary for people like yourself who come on our show for the first time. We need to get a little bit of backstory. So, when it comes to foosball itself, when was the first time you saw a foosball table, and what kind was it?
Well, let's see. That's probably 1973, and it was a blue top. Probably just the early TS table, a blue top something or other. Maybe it wasn't TS at the time, but
Okay.
I remember seeing it in the arcade.
Aha, in the arcade. Now, and you were how old?
17.
17 in 1973. Well, we want to do
Yeah.
the math, but anyway. So that
No.
that first time you touched the table and started to play, what was the point at which you decided, you know what, I think I want to do this competitively?
Well, a lot of things happened there. Well, of course, when you first touch the table, it's nothing more than a pinball machine or a pool table. You're just having some fun with your friends, and
Mm-hmm.
then there got to be a draw your partner tournament or two, and we played around with that and had some fun. And I know we started getting a little bit better, but there was no intention of ever, no even dream or thought of playing professional foosball. Who would have thunk such a thing then?
Mm-hmm.
But I remember the time where I looked at, there was Tournament Soccer put out a what would you call this thing? A tour list for 1975. And I was looking at this thing and I go, man, that's a lot of tournaments they're going to play next year. And I looked down at the bottom of that chart, and there was national championships for 75, $20,000 first place for open doubles. And I looked at that and looked at that and looked at that. And I thought to myself, why not me?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, 1975. Of course, you teamed up with Kenny Rivera and won the world championship. You started in 73, and there it is 2 years later.
Wow.
And against in a huge field of players, and this is really the infancy of tournament soccer. And you and Kenny win open doubles. What are your memories of that?
You know what? I still remember shots and players and circumstances in the matches. We went into that tournament. I really had no doubt that we would win that tournament. Was never any kind of nerves or anything in that match. We were down for winners of the losers bracket to Johnny Lott and Paul Dalton. We were down 4-0 in the fifth game. And that was the first time that I thought, are you kidding me? It's going to end like this.
Wow. And you came back and scored 5 in a row to win it, and then
That's
go
right.
on and win the championship.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, that's remarkable. And I think it's a testament to what we have heard about you. When we've talked to your peers, from Ken Allwell to Johnny Lott to Mike Bowers, the one thing they always said about you was how competitive you were. You would do anything to win. You didn't always have the fastest shot or the best 5 rope, but you were going to find a way to get it done. And what you said just now, how there were no nerves, you went into it expecting to win. Even after only playing the game for a couple of years, I think that really says a lot about you. Where does that come from? Did you play other sports? Where does this fearlessness, this understanding how to win, where did that come from?
Well, part of it, we're uber competitive my whole life, and played some baseball and a little bit of football. I'm a golfer these days, but I guess the competitiveness, when you're confident, people used to say, "Hey, you're really cocky." It's like, no, I'm not cocky. I can back it up. So, I was very confident that I had done what I needed to do from the first tournament I played in Salt Lake City till we got to Denver to play the national championship. I think that I did. I played more tournaments. I traveled. I practiced. I really, really committed and sacrificed. And I think I'm going to win. I'd have been really surprised if we didn't, because I think I outworked everybody.
That's a bridge to a question. So there's this whole demeanor that Tom Spear has, the stoic, non-emoting, kind of nothing rattles me, nothing flusters me. I don't see anything but the table. And I've got that was a bridge from your manner on the table. Was that right? Was that kind of your thing, the unflappable kind of thing?
You know what? He did it with a lot of cool, I have to say. He was very stoic. I don't think I had that, but like most competitive players or athletes, they talk about, getting into a zone and you don't hear anything in the stands. You zone everything out. You're just in the game. And that's where I tried to get to really quickly. You start thinking about, the money you make, or if you lose, what's going to happen, and this, that, and the other thing. Pretty soon you're not in the game, and you've already lost a game. So I just tried to get to that place very quickly, and was successful at that.
Can we talk about that for one more second? And there's a reason
Yeah.
why. And I'm sure you haven't listened to all the shows. If this might be your first one, Dan, so thank you for joining us. But
Yeah,
what I'm getting to is
Oh.
nothing has changed from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s to the 2000s. A very small percentage of people win. It doesn't matter the population. The population could be 1,000 players. It could be 800 players or 400 players. There's a 1% that wins. There's a 10% that's always on the verge of winning. There's only a
Yes.
couple people that win. And you come from, I don't think it's arguable. You come from the, I don't think it's arguable the volume of people that were playing at a high level for a lot of money. Okay, so you're one of those guys. I mean, you're in our, there's 3 TS guys in our top 10, right? And you're one of the 3 guys. And so you represent that small group. And you just spoke to something that's critically important now, because when people listen to the show, they look for all types of things. And some people look for, how can I get better at foosball? And you just said
Yes.
something that's brilliant. And everybody needs to learn, like, getting in the zone and staying there, especially in the clutch when it matters, which is part of your legacy, by the way. The greats and anyone who has anything to say about you knows that you won because you were able to do exactly what you're saying. What is the exercise there? Is there an exercise? Is there a strategy? I mean, what, like getting there and remaining there and not buckling under pressure? Tell us about that.
Well, I spent so many hours practicing and trying to put myself in tournament situations mentally. So when I got into this tournament situation, I'd already been there. It didn't really mean anything to me. The 4-0 comeback for the national championship against Johnny Lott, I never role played that, I have to say. But you're sitting there practicing hours and hours, and what are you thinking about? It's not really thinking about the shot. You're thinking about making the shot, like the putt for the Masters, the grand slam on the bottom of the ninth. You're putting yourself in a position mentally that when you get there, you're actually in that position. You've already been there. And so you just continue to execute, because that's really all the game is who can execute. And if you start thinking about what the shot meant, I know when I made the $20,000 shot, when I setting up the ball, it entered my mind for a second what this shot was going to mean. And as soon as it got there, I got rid of it, because, the guys on the other side of the table were pretty good. And if I miss, who knows what's going to happen.
Wow, that's great.
That
That's
is so
amazing.
good. Yeah.
That is amazing. So, Dan, this is Adam. I have a question for you. And I think it's kind of in this vein that we're talking about here, because we're talking about, what we're really talking about isn't physical ability on the table. What we're talking about is what's in between your ears. You are mastering your body to do these things. And one of the big takeaways that I had for when you graced us with your presence in the booth at Moneyball for that one match that we saw was, it sounded like you hadn't been really in a tournament hall for 20 something plus years and hadn't competed in 30 something years. But you chatted with me during the match, and we were watching Trevor Park, great Southern California player, shoot a rollover. Kopi Cam was shooting a rollover. And my takeaway from that was, within a game, probably even less than that, you were calling the shots. You knew what they were going to be shooting in the options, even though it was a completely foreign shot to you. And I'm curious, how does that even in your head, like, was that just something that just comes naturally? You see offense, you go for it, or where do you operate in that regard?
Well, as a forward for the first 3 or 4 years I played, you're watching the opposing forward. So you're reading your goalie's defense, and if you're helping the goalie construct the defense for that forward, and watching these guys. You call it the rollover. I guess I still call it a front pin. That shows you how long I've been out of the game. But and our vantage, Adam, was really good, where we were watching the table from the end, and so we were watching from the forward's point of view. We could see the defense. You could see what the goalie is trying to do, trying to bait him into going. But for forward, it's very simple. You're going 3 places. You're going to go straight, middle, or long. That's really all it is, and the shot breaks down really quickly. So you just got to kind of make your move and go.
One of the interesting things when I look at your record you won open doubles in 1975. In 1976, you won open singles. All right, that's the early part of the TS Tour, right? When it was heavily Northwest influenced. Minnesota was just kind of starting to make an impact. Denver and Colorado was still a year or two away. But you win early, and then you come back in 1979 when you have the full Minnesota crew, when you have the full Colorado crew, and you win open singles. Was singles something, because I always looked at you, and I don't know, you will not remember this, but tournament, if you remember the tournament up at the Tournament Soccer Warehouse up in Seattle, 1979, 1980, one of those 2 years. I actually played you there. All right.
Oh, okay.
And I went up against you, and you caught everything, right? You just caught everything. Every loose ball was yours. Obviously, every move you made was calculated. But I guess what I'm getting to is, how do you go from that early era, and you might be the only guy, maybe Bowers would be the other, who was able to win on the early TS Tour when things were still sort of kicking in, and then on the later TS Tour when you had all of those influences, whether it was Minnesota, whether it was Colorado, whether it was the Pacific Northwest, Texas, whatever. What changes did you have to make in your game between 75, 76 to 79 when things had changed so drastically to once again win the World Singles Championship?
Well, thank you. Good question. I had really 3 good years. I had 75, 76, 77. In 78, I kind of was in that weird plateau spot where you feel like you've accomplished what do you have left to prove? And of course, there's something left to prove, but it's harder to stay on top than it is to get to the top. The motivation a person has to win the first national or world is just all encompassing. It's all you think about. You sleep, you dream about foosball, the big match. What are you going to play? And then after 3 years, I was down in 78. So 79 was a resurgence year that felt really good. But I kind of rededicated, put the time in and practiced and, got in pretty good shape and was mentally ready. But, sometimes a tournament will come down to the draw you get. Do you make the one big shot? I mean, the line between winners and losers is very fine. And some things have to go your way. Maybe, like they say in golf, you need a little bit of luck to win one of these tournaments. And I think foosball's like that too, where it takes five shots to win the game, but were all 5 exactly what you planned to do, or was it 4 this game? Did he miss an open shot? Did you blow your defense and he just missed the shot? I mean, so many things go into it, game after game, shot after shot, that felt good to win that singles. And in 75, I didn't even play singles. I didn't even know. I knew what singles was, but I just kind of jumped into singles as a result of the fact that at the 76 open doubles, we lost out the first day, and I didn't have anything to do on Saturday, so I joined singles.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And before we move on, one interesting thing, Dan says he plateaued in 1978 when he was voted the Tournament Soccer Player of the Year.
That's right. I think that was because of Super Singles, though, if that was the right year, which was Super Singles was just an amazing tournament. It was incredible.
Yeah. You won Super Singles and Open Singles. That was actually 79.
79? Okay.
Yep.
So Dan,
it's been a lot of years.
Dan, I have a quick question for you. I know that we've had a lot of pros from that era. We've had a chance to talk to, and one of the things I always like to know, who was your nemesis back in those days? I mean, there was a lot of big names, Wiswell, Furry, of course, Todd Lafredo. Who was the person you didn't like to face necessarily?
I love facing them all, but I would have preferred having Bowers in a different bracket. But he was really a goalie, so I didn't mind that too much. But Jim and Doug, I mean, those guys, what a team they were. Doug was a special player. My goodness, so good in the goalie. I just thought he was a goalie. Then I played him a couple of times. He jumped to forward. He was almost as good a forward as Jim. It's like, oh my God, these guys are incredible. And, I grew up in Minneapolis. I never even heard of those guys. I didn't hear of them till about, 77 or something, but they were really, really good. I played Todd the first time. He beat me the first time, Lafredo. And that was later on, like 78, 79. I thought, that kid, I don't think he was 16 or 17 at the time.
Yes.
And took me completely by surprise. I was not ready for him, and it really made me think about where I was in my game, because it's such a young man's game. And to compete with these guys, these 16 and 17-year-olds, they're playing 10 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Jeez.
They don't get tired. They're just incredible. And he was pretty special, but I was glad when he was in the other bracket. Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan, Mark here.
Hey, Mark.
So, question for you: what is your most memorable loss, and what did you take away from it? What did you learn from it?
Honestly, the one I still have nightmares about. Well, there's two. One was just a random just a run of the mill tournament in Florida. And I think it was about 77 or something. I was playing really good, and I was playing so good I started showboating. And kind of what I saw Tony doing when I was at Moneyball last week. I mean, that guy has so many shots from so many places. He doesn't even have to do his regular shot. He just messes around on the table. And I was pretty good at doing that stuff in 76 and 77. And I get down to this tournament in Florida, and I start showboating. Winners of the winners bracket, I'm showboating by the second game. They came back and beat me. And I was so mad about that. And I did the same thing and was out. I took third place in that tournament, and I should have won. And I went to self-punishment after that tournament, the only time in my career. I gave my plane ticket to a friend of mine. I hitchhiked home from Florida so I could get my mind right, because I was so cocky. I wasn't even trying to win.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is so good.
That's reflection.
But
right
the
there.
other one was when me and Tom Spear played Wiswell and Furry for the World Championship doubles, and I think that was 78. And Tom and I were going back and forth, and we should have beat those guys, but they're a good team. Holy cow! But those two, I think in my career, I think back and go, man. First of all, stop showboating. Yeah, you're good, but you need to go out and win the tournament. Be serious when you're playing. And then I should have been able to stop Wiswell from the goalie, but I played those guys better in singles than I did in doubles. Yeah, but
So
you don't win them all. You don't win them all.
Dan, you're saying a lot of names that like listeners of this show know all these names. Like that they're all foosball fans, foosball, kind of like historians with us. We love this kind of stuff. But you played against them, and I'm just curious: was there any kind of standout match or just moments against any of these players, Furry, Spear, playing against or with them that you just think about and go, "Wow, that guy or girl"?
Well, I'll tell you what. The first time I saw Jim Wiswell do his pull shot to the near corner so hard that it came out of the other goalie, went underneath the table and came out the other side. I was like, that's pretty incredible right there. It comes shooting out the other goalie. Not too many players had that power. So I mean, he literally shook the table when he scored. And I've seen guys break the wood out of the back of the goal before. Wiswell would do that sometimes. The shot would go in so hard that splinters of wood would come out on the table.
Wow.
Yeah, incredible stuff. And so, so it's exciting to talk about. Puts me back in the day, because foosball, was a huge part of my life, but it hasn't been, after the fact. There's, some friends of mine, of course, know that I played, and it comes up at work every once in a while, but I don't get to talk to foosball guys about foosball very often. So I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh,
and
for sure.
I gotta just to follow up. I'm sorry, but so I know you're excited to be talking about it again. But like when we say that you were number 9 on this list that we did of the top 50 players, like that was no drop in the bucket. There was a tremendous amount of research that myself and Mark and Jim and Dave Gumison did, and everybody out there is like a huge super fan. To have you on here tonight, and I got to tell you, when you were we did that match at Moneyball, it was like I was geeking out. Huge dork, because I was like, oh my god, it's Dan Kaiser. And I was sitting there, I was actually up in my hotel room kind of getting ready for the day, and Don Caesar, of course, a promoter up there in the Pacific Northwest, I go look at my phone. I've got 8 missed phone calls from him, and he's calling my room, and I'm like, what's going on? Is the place on fire? And he's like, Dan Kaiser's down here. And I was like, it was like a cartoon. I dropped my cup, my drink, whatever I had, and I was just like down there, ready to go. And so I'm just like, in hindsight, you're looking at it, of course, you're far removed from it. But now, did you get a sense of kind of how foosball was doing, or where it's at right now, just when you stepped on the Moneyball, or just anything that you've seen?
Um,
Or have you been?
I think I don't know. I guess I'd have to go to a little bigger tournament to get a better
Mm,
feel for it. You know, some of the local regional stuff, you don't get a flavor for the tour. The tour was quite a bit different because people used to say to me, "Hey, I played, I was like the best player on the college campus, and
Hmm.
I'm the Oregon State champion." And I'd kind of chuckle. I think to myself, "Pretty sure I'm the Oregon State champion, but whatever. Let's go play." Uh, but it's just you get inside these tour settings with these players that have really sacrificed and practiced. They're in shape, they're mentally strong, they're ready to go. It's super exciting. It's high level stuff, and very tactical, and strategic. People that are outside of foosball don't realize the strategy and the tactics that
Hmm.
people have, and the time they put in. They just think people still think that we spin the rods, that we don't actually shoot shots. It's like, oh my goodness,
yeah.
they, oh, you play
No,
professional football? What? Yeah.
yeah, there's no connection with the general public for sure. But for me, as someone who has commentated more than 5,000 open matches and hundreds and hundreds of world championship matches, um, to be able to geek out a little bit myself when I met you in
Oh,
1998. And Doug Furry, I know about 5, 6 years ago, he shows up in Vegas, and I'm like, that's Doug Furry, right? And even as
yeah.
someone who has been so entrenched in foosball at the highest level for so long, and I guess a lot of it is because my appreciation as a sports fan in general and a foosball fan in particular, to
Hmm.
understand what it takes to be the best of the best, which you were, and what that means, and
Hmm.
what sacrifice you had made, and how much work it took to get there. All of that. That's what makes my job so interesting. That's what makes my
Hmm.
job so special. And maybe I have an understanding of that, even though I was a good pro player. I was but never anyone anywhere near what you guys are. But my job has allowed me to kind of peek inside what it means to play at the highest level, and I think that's kind of what we have looked at tonight. After that long-winded statement, I do have one question for you.
Okay.
We've kind of focused in on some of your accomplishments of the 70s. You're the only player to have won 3 world doubles or singles championships. No one else did that. Um, the 1970s, okay, and we've talked, like I said, with Mike Bowers and Ken Allwell and others about what that meant to you, that era, that time period when you're playing for a living, when every tournament meant so much, when you're going from one event to another, you're taking notes, you're studying, you're working hard, you're making adjustments week to week, month to month as you play the tour in the 70s for a
Hmm.
living. Um, Talk a little bit about that. First of all, what that was like to be able to do this basically for a living for 4, 5, 6 years.
Well, it was really exciting, and I didn't think it would turn out that way. Honestly, it was just kind of the way things fell into place. I went to my first tournament in Salt Lake City in February '75, and ended up winning that because there wasn't any good players there. I think it was too cold for any of the talented people to show up, and started gaining some confidence. And I kept thinking about that $20,000 prize, and I thought, hey, I have really got to bring my game around. I knew at that time I wasn't ready to win anything like that, but um, there was just enough money in foosball to keep you going month to month. You had to win. You had to win the right tournaments. I suspect that's the same way now, where most of the guys don't make any money, but if you won the national championship or you won the big regional tournaments, it kept you going. Um, but I loved the competitiveness and the freedom that it gave me. I really didn't have any jobs going through high school, some part time stuff. So that was really the time I said, "Hey, this is your job, so take it serious." And I think I was one of the few people that did that.
And then, of course, as the 70s close out, 1980, 1981, things are moving
Yeah.
along. I was a young player, a novice player in Southern California, but I remember vividly to this day when I heard about the crash of tournament soccer in 1981.
Hmm.
We've talked to other players about this and how you thought this was going to go on forever. You were going to be able to go out and do what you loved, make a living and continue this lifestyle. And then suddenly overnight it comes to an end. Do you remember when that happened, and what were your feelings about it?
I do. Saw it coming. They had changed the prize money breakdowns, and the tournaments weren't quite the same, So that was my last tournament with Chicago, and I think I did okay that tournament. Took third place or something like that, and but there was a little buzz that went through the players Sunday night after the tournament was over that tournament soccer didn't have enough money to make all the checks good, and I'm not even sure everybody cashed their checks from that tournament. I think if we went back and asked some people, they didn't actually get paid to play there. So I saw that coming, but that had started when Tornado started getting more and more popular, because I started playing Tornado in about 79, and I liked the table, but it was a big adjustment. Maybe 78 guys were. I thought, man, this is a cool table. And I went to Texas to play the Tornado National Championship. There was so many players there. And I'd played on that table for about 10 minutes before that tournament started. And there were so many people. And I thought, this looks like the future to me. Tournament soccer didn't look like the future. And I knew I had a long ways to go because I had to relearn a table. Playing in that Tornado table is quite a bit different when for 4 years or 5 years, all you play is TS, and then now you're going to go play a tournament on Tornado. That just didn't work out that great.
So Dan, back in the day, there was certainly a lot of folks who were keeping notebooks about their competitors.
Oh, really?
At least that's what we've heard. There were people who would go in and literally take notes and study each player. Did you do that?
I did not.
You
I
didn't?
remembered, honestly, guys, I remembered every shot in every game from every tournament for at least 3 or 4 years. I didn't have to keep notes. That would have been redundant.
Okay.
That's interesting, Dan. I got a question that's still a byproduct of the last answer you gave, but to this immediate one, do you think? I mean, did you have that kind of recall? Because there are some foozers out there that have, like Tommy Adkisson, Federico Colognon, for whatever reason, their connection to the sport, they like remember in detail. Was that a thing you carried with you in your head? Like what people
Yes.
shot? That's amazing.
Yes. Their shots, what defense they like to use, if you're because I was playing forward for the first 3 or 4 years, and if I went to goalie to play somebody, I knew what he was going to shoot. I mean, playing goalie was pretty simple because I watched him play forward for 3 years. I know exactly what he's going to do. So
It's amazing.
goalie was great, for the first couple of years when I was back there.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what age I was. I can't remember what I had for breakfast. I can never remember what I had for breakfast. But I want to segue back to a prior answer you had.
Yeah.
I love asking this question too of the guys from the 70s. And it's funny. I was thinking of Ken Alwell while you were talking, because Ken Alwell, just I pick it up with Ken like once every couple of years, and Ken is like, he didn't even occur to him how cool it was, the things you did. You guys just did it and walked away from it. So when you get a chance to reflect on it, probably more now than ever, because you're talking to foosball people, it's kind of like, wow, that must have been pretty cool. People thought that was pretty cool. You don't have a point of reference because you did it. We're all looking at like, man, that was amazing. But fast forwarding to the question. So we have had the opportunity on this show to split hairs on all the possibilities, the multiverse of possibilities, if the sport doesn't go away. And amongst them are like, what happens? Do guys like you become coaches? And now we have generations. And there's this whole idea that there's an incredible trauma afflicted on foosball, because when the top players in the world, like 90% of them in a sport, like walk away, like it's done. I walk away. There's all this legacy knowledge lost. There's no lineage. There's no people trained. There's no coaching. Skill sets like yours, the mental game, which I keep hearing over and over, like you were good skill wise, really good skill wise, but the mental game was way ahead than all these other guys. How is the game different if it keeps going? Like in like a summary of you, if you can, what happens if you're allowed to keep playing and the game just keeps growing and growing? There's more money. What happens to this sport in your mind, and you in the sport? What happens to you within the sport?
Going forward, you mean?
Well, yeah. If 81 it doesn't crash, it grows.
If 81 doesn't crash.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Well, that's a really good question, because it was 70, I think 77 or 78, and there was some buzz around foosball. We had some people come out, and local TV stations coming out and filming some matches. There was some talk that Sports Illustrated was going to do some articles and some interviews with people, and there was a little bit of buzz at the time that foosball was going to be something pretty big. Go maybe in the Olympics or whatever the case might be. And I thought to myself, I'm in a pretty good spot here. Maybe I'm not the best player in the world, but I'm top one, two, or three, and so let's just play this out. Let's see what happens. And then with tournament soccer folding and stuff like that, it happened to me at that time in my career. I was a little bit burnout, from the practice, and everyone wants to win, but not everyone wants to. Not everyone wants to practice so much that they can win. But I don't know what would have happened. There was I guess about 6 months, maybe 12 months, where there was some really good, exciting buzz about what might happen, and we were in position, kind of like this, Tony Hawk skater guy. Is that what's going to happen to the top, 5 or 10 foosball guys? Are they going to be somebody's, people names that people would know? But it didn't really go that way. So as you all know, so um, I don't know. Getting back to the mind game and the strategy of it, if that was the question, I think everyone's got a strategy, because you don't have to be the fastest player to win. You don't have to be the strongest player to win, but you better know how to win. You better know how to beat that guy on the other side of the table, because you know darn good and well he's trying to beat you. And so, at the end of it, I always thought foosball was a chess game. That's the way I thought about it, and that's the way I try to play it.
And kind of in that vein, you said something a little bit ago that kind of struck me. When we talk about foosball, especially the golden era, which we call the 1970s era, um, it's just kind of a given that it was the big money. It was $1 million tour, et cetera, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But I think there's this conception with a lot of foosball players, that we want to get back to that era because you could make a living off of it. But
Mhm.
you said something that kind of echoed what I think you would say about now, is that not a lot of players even then were making a living off of that. Is that true from your perspective?
It is true. I would say that I don't think it was even 10% of the players were only playing foosball. Most of the guys, like Mike Bowers, for example, he had foosball halls. He had bars. He had lots of things he was doing, and he was a great player. So probably talented than me. But there was, I heard a lot of times, because that's that year in '75. I went to, I think, every tournament on the tour, and I was I might have been the only player at that many tournaments that year. So if everyone was doing it to make a living, I think I would have seen some more people. But
Wow.
most people playing had jobs. They couldn't get away. They couldn't get to certain tournaments. I had a calendar at my house. I was counting the days and minutes till the next tournament, and so of course, by the time it came around, I was ready. There was no question what I was doing. 3 weeks from today, for example.
Right. But I mean, Mark, Jim, I mean, Tom, like, don't we often talk about the '70s in terms of like you could make a living off of it? But it
Yeah.
sounds like it was
You know
just
what?
much the same then as
Yeah,
it is now,
it's trippy you
right?
say that because there is an absolute mythology. So, Dan, I started playing in like '89, right? So you were retired, you quit playing for a long time before that. And even in '89, we're talking about there's a mythology. We don't really know. We don't really know the detail. If you told us back in '89 that only 10% of the people could make a living and all the other 90% had to have jobs, we would have been floored. So we were like, oh, let's get back to the
Yeah,
'70s. Well,
10% is still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty good. And I don't even know if it was that, guys. I think everyone,
Well, I
you
think
know,
there are lists of money lists that have been released where the top 10, top 20 players were all making 15 to 20 grand during various years, and back then, of course, that
mhm,
was something you could live on. But you're right. I
yeah,
mean, for the most part, the players did need to. The elite, that upper crust, maybe there were 10 or 20 guys that were making a living, but everyone else certainly had to, and there were top players who had to have jobs as well, as you've documented.
mhm, mhm.
yeah.
But I think
Let me
obviously the prize money was bigger then than it ever has been.
let me foreshadow one thing because I think this is true. I know lifelong surgeons They were second generation surgeons. Their parents were surgeons, and they trained their entire lives to be surgeons, and they make a lot of money doing it, and they hate what they do. And so there would have been Dan. I don't know where would have fallen. You could have. I'm sure there are professional athletes of every ilk. I'm sure there are professional football players, basketball players. They make a ton of money doing what they do. But I can assure you, there's some of them that wouldn't be doing it anymore if they didn't feel compelled to do it. Anyway, I was just gonna give you an out, Dan. It's equally possible. You said you were burnt out from all the practice. You got all these things have up and downs. It's equally likely you would have been making $1 million a year playing foosball and been like, man, I hate this game. I just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how that goes. Something's for the first year or two, you're so excited to play, and then it's hey, so what? But like the star athletes now in all the sports, they're not on top of their game all the time, but they're still making 5, 10, 15, 20 million dollars. And you had to be on top of your game to be in that 15 to 20 grand a year guy. You had to be really good, because there was only 3 or 4 tournaments that you better take first or second in most of those tournaments, or you weren't going to get to 15 or 20,000. I mean, that's just the way it worked.
Yeah, and staying motivated. I mean, you look at the greatest athletes of all time, whether it's Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, whatever. The ability to stay motivated over a long period of time. How do they do that, right? How is it even possible? Dan, you've said, I think, that you really haven't had much involvement with foosball since about 1981. I know you kind of poked your head back in '98 when we inducted you into the Hall of Fame, and you had a chance to look at it there. And now you've been up in Portland to watch a little foosball, and now, of course, we're talking tonight. But how aware of of the modern game are you? Have you followed it at all? Are you aware? Obviously, you mentioned Tony. You know who Tony Spreadman is, but
Yeah.
how much awareness have you had over the last 20, 30 years of professional foosball?
A little bit. I mean, I've gone online. I've watched a few tournaments, couple of championships, and I watched these guys
Foosball
play.
tournaments. Sorry, guys.
And I'm sorry. There's some feedback here on the phone. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're good. You're good.
Here.
Okay, good. Yeah. So I've kind of kept up with it, although not involved on a day-to-day basis. I've watched the game. You say it evolves, but I don't know this. Going to this last tournament here, Moneyball, and I'm watching the guys play, and I'm thinking, that's the same 3 passes we used in '75. That's the same pull shot that we were doing. Now it's a different table and a little different pop when the ball goes in, but the game hasn't evolved a whole ton. But I think I forgot the question there, guys. Sorry.
No, and I think you bring up a great point, and I've talked about this before, how that time period, 1975 through 1981, because of the amount of money you guys were playing for, how important it was to you, the game got to a really high level very quickly, mentally, right? And that American style of foosball that was created during the 1970s, and the evolution of it happened so quickly, this condensed 6-7 year period where it got to this high level. It is still, to this day, American foosball is the way the sport is played worldwide. It's that high percentage 5. It's sitting on the ball, taking your time, picking holes. All of that you guys created in the 1970s is still the way the game is played, with some evolution, with some advancements, but it's the way it's played from China to Eastern Europe to everywhere in the world. Basically, that style of play has permeated the world through the use of our videos of American events and through what you guys created in the 1970s. And to this day, the American style of play is the way to win foosball tournaments.
So Dan,
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
You got to know that you're popular, because we do on occasion get callers who want to ask you a question. And
Okay.
in this case, and I hate to interrupt, but we do have a caller on the line who would like to speak with you. Caller, where are you calling from, and what is your name? Are you with us?
Got our hopes up there, Tom. Darn
it.
They get nervous quite a bit. They're foosball players.
Right.
Yeah. You know how foosers are.
Yeah.
I see the name.
No.
I see the name Fuchs. Would that be Christina?
I think so. If she can get in, yeah, that'd be great to hear from Chris. But either way, and Dan, I know you probably haven't had a chance to go back and kind of listen to our top 50 all-time greatest American Pro Tour foosball players that we released back in December and then into January. But as Adam mentioned earlier, it was really difficult to put together a list crossing all those various eras and table styles. But if you get a chance, go back and listen, see if you agree with us, see if you disagree with us, see who maybe you think should be on the list and isn't. But just to kind of get your perspective, who were the outside of yourself, who were the 5 best players you ever played against?
Well, let's see. Obviously Doug. But see, Doug was so good. Doug Furry was so good because he was such a great goalie and great forward. And Wiswell was also great, but he was only forward. So to me, you had to be able to play both sides. So you can have Bowers in there, Lafredo, Tommy. Tommy Spears started coming into his own game later on. That he wasn't there the first few years, but he must have done some good things after I retired because you guys have him up really high. But and then you had Zeke out of Colorado.
Yeah.
He was really good for a while. The guys out of Minnesota, Bednar and was it Belts or Pelts, whatever his name, Mike.
Belts, yep.
Yeah, those guys really good, really good. The funny thing is, I had to travel to play these guys, and there wasn't anybody in Oregon. Maybe I should have stayed in Minneapolis. That's where a lot of talent came out of. Holy cow!
Yeah, and of course you had a chance to play with and against Rick Martin, who passed away a few years ago, Hall of Famer, great player. Talk a little bit about Rick. What were your impressions of Rick Martin?
I loved Rick. We played. Rick and I played. We had a run in I think about '77 where him and I won, I don't know, 12 or 14 consecutive tournaments. We were really good as a team, and he was such a great player. I mean, he had one of the push kicks that was just legendary. I mean, that guy had thunder in his forearms. He was so good and fast. Really an exceptional athlete, in foosball and other things too. He was a good guy. He stayed with me when he came to Portland, and we practiced, and I'd go to his house in Nampa, and we had a really good run. I miss Rick. He actually tried to drag me back into foosball on a couple occasions. He called me, I think, I don't know, 15 years ago and something. He goes, Hey, DK, I just won the nationals. You got to come and play, man. I know you still got it. I go, Rick, what are you talking about, man? I'm 55 years old. I haven't played a game in 20 years. He goes, no, you still can do it. He tried to pull me back in a couple of times. I love that guy. Definitely miss him. And man, he was. It's really hard when you have a partner that you really like to play with, and he's really good, but then you got to come up with him in tournament play in singles. And that was one of the things that was really hard with partners, because not everyone plays singles, but Rick was a great singles player. I mean, he wasn't a great goalie, but man, he had thunder from the front line. Holy cow.
He sure did. Yeah. And we talk about how competitive the 1970s were, but with so many of you guys who were there, the memories are about the people and about the community and about how you guys were all kind of in this together, right? And the friends you made. And so often when we talk to players and people, and even someone like you, and we've talked to others who basically after 81 didn't play again, right? But the memories, and I'm sure it's the same with you, the memories of those days are as vivid as any from your life. Am I wrong in that?
Oh, absolutely not. No, those were special times. I mean, a couple people that I knew pretty good back there in 75, 76, I said, Dan, you have got to write a book. You need to, because some of the adventures that I went on in that first year in 75 to play these tournaments, it's not like I had the money to fly in. My car wasn't good enough to get to most of those tournaments. I hitchhiked to several, leaving Portland, Oregon.
Wow.
Every place that you leave from Portland, Oregon is a long ways, guys. You're on the West Coast. I mean, hitchhiking to, Denver, hitchhiked to Kansas City. I mean, there was lots of times we just didn't have the money. I'll tell you a story. How convinced I was that I was going to win was I would go to the airport. This is probably 76, 77 when I was pretty cocky. I'd write a check. They just to check checks. They wouldn't even check ID or nothing. But I'd write a check at the airport, write a check for the hotel, write a check for the entry fee, fly back Monday and cover the check.
Wow.
I did that. I don't know. I did that half a dozen times.
No wonder you won. I mean, you got to do it. Yeah, there's no choice.
Yeah.
So Dan, I have so you saw my dad up in at Moneyball, Terry Gilson. He was more on the tournament soccer, the administrative side of things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you had to, you had to win. So, but I can only do that at the big tournament, obviously, because if you didn't win, you could still cover everything if you took maybe third place or something. So,
right, and that's my question is like when you were doing what you were doing and going on the tour, what was it like? The promoters and all that, like, what was it like dealing with them at these tournaments? Were you just there business as usual, or how did that work?
promoters like talking about what at that time there was Billy
I mean, you
Sumption
got
and some other guys.
Lee Peppard, Shumshin, there was File, there was all those guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, was it was everybody on each other's side, or how did that work back then?
Yeah, there was a little bit of brotherhood. I can't say that I was super active in all that stuff. I was just a player. I was going to win. I was pretty focused. So, when I think about my contribution to foosball, I feel like I fell short a little bit. Maybe not so much as a player, but to support the game after I was done, or even when I was done. Because a guy like Johnny Lott, I don't know what he's on his 10th book or something now. I mean, the guy writes a book every 2 months or something, but he had.
It's the same
He
book,
had.
Dan.
It's the same.
Yeah, okay.
And it has
Eventually, it'll be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. I don't know about any of that stuff, but I mean, he was a visionary talking about foosball and what it could be and this and that. And I'm thinking, I just want to get to my next match. I was pretty isolated, I think, to not to see the broader picture.
Hey man, sports need guys that are going to be extroverts and needs guys that are going to be introverts. So you do your thing.
Yeah.
You do Dan
Yeah.
Kaiser. All right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. No, and again, it's a testament to where that incredible focus and competitiveness came from. You were one pointed in your focus, and that was on playing that next ball, playing on that next game, and then next match, and that's what made you certainly one of the top 10 players of all time. And Dan, it's been a real pleasure to listen to you tonight and hear you. For me, as a historian, as someone who appreciates the history of the game, this is gold. And I really, really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for the generous placement on the top 50 list. I don't really think about that too much, because that includes Tornado, and there's a lot of players I've never even heard of.
50 years almost. Yeah.
3,000 guys that hate you because they have no idea who you are.
Sorry.
Well, hey,
but wait, Dan. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead. I was done.
Well, I just wanted to echo one other thing that we had talked about, and it just fascinates me is that you told me that you are not the most talented player, but you are a smart player and you worked your ass off and you tried harder than others. And that's something that I've heard echoed by another player, and that's Tony Sprademan. And you look at your guys' careers contextually within the time frame that you played, and I think for any foosball player, aspiring foosball player that's out there, needs to really think about that. You know what I mean? Like you have to rise above that.
100%.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
I just saw him and met him. He's a special player. He's got it.
Yes, he does.
However you guys want to define it, he's talented. You can tell he lives and thinks about foosball all the time. He's got the talent. He's got the drive. He's focused. That's a tough guy to match up against for anybody. And he can score with his left hand as good as his right hand. I mean, that's rare talent right there. I've seen him play 2 matches. Like, okay, that's a handful right there. That's I can see why he wins a lot, and so I mean, he deserves it because you're not born with that stuff. You have to work at it and develop it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
and that's a great way to close it, man. It's about work, isn't it? It's about working hard it's about not taking it for granted that you're talented. You still have to work hard. You have to focus and all of that. And that certainly exemplifies what your career was all about. And again, Dan, thank you very much.
Okay, guys, have a good night. Thank
Hey,
you,
buddy.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you.
and thanks for the memories, and we'll welcome you back here at FoosTalk Live anytime.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Dan Kaiser, everybody, the legendary Hall of Famer, of course, bringing us all kinds of great stories tonight. What great material stuff!
Yeah, he just moved up to up 1 or 2 points in my top 10. I think after tonight.
Hey, he was my number 4, by the way.
That was amazing,
right? Yeah, really
that was
terrific.
amazing.
Well,
that was
awesome. We also have an update from Oklahoma State this evening, guys, and we want to welcome on to FoosTalk Live someone who was here just last week. In fact, Tommy Adkisson from Two Gun Productions. Tommy, are you with us?
Yeah, I don't see Tommy in there
Tommy,
anywhere.
Are you?
Oh, there he
you
is.
with us?
No, that's Clay. I can do a quick Tommy if you want.
Yeah.
Hey,
No, do your Wilson, Don Wilson. I love that one.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Thank you.
Tommy, let's try it now. I just tried to unmute you there. Are you there?
It's funny, I don't see him on there anywhere.
He's
actually he's
calling in on the Podbean app.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Tommy, are you muted on your end?
There he is. Is that Tommy? No, I hear him.
I think that's Dan.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what. Yeah. So.
Hey, y'all. Hey, it's Clay. I'm gonna let him connect on my phone here. We're having technical difficulties.
Okay.
All right.
Clay.
Yeah, it's coming through okay here, right?
Cool.
Yeah. It's Oklahoma difficulties. Just
yeah.
Yeah. It's Oklahoma cell phone services. Hey, he's gonna beat me up. I gotta go. Here you go. Hello.
What's up, Tommy?
Tommy, how are you, buddy?
How's it going, guys?
Good. So what's happening in Oklahoma tonight? What's the temperature of the room?
Well, we're winding down what was a pretty successful tournament.
Nice.
We had a good turnout. We were happy with the numbers we seen. Competition, we had quite a few good players there.
Yeah.
Pretty good for our first one.
Did you win, Tommy? Did you win?
Did I win? It's not over yet, Jen.
All right.
Me and Tony do have the winners.
All right.
Nice.
That's you and Tony Owens, is that right?
No, Tony Spreadman.
Oh, Tony Spreadman. Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
we played Ryan and Shannon Cooley.
Ooh,
I like it.
That must have been a great match.
Yeah, I think another one's coming.
Did you take him in 2?
Huh?
Did you take him in 2?
In 2, we're playing open events.
Oh, I'm sorry. You take him in 3?
No, actually, they beat us the first game. They were up 4-2 the second game, and then we won 5-4 in the fourth.
Nice.
Hey, Tommy, it's Adam here. A quick question for you. I'm just looking at the brackets for that open doubles you're talking about. I see Lewis Fitch and Bruce Van Buskirk that you had to play them for 5th, 6th, or for 3rd.
Yes, sir.
I'm just impressed to see. I'm impressed to see Lewis Fitch. Those guys are experts.
Lewis is playing phenomenal right now. He's holding up our whole damn tournament.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, of the tournament, this is the first one in Oklahoma State's. What is it? 10 years?
It's been 11 years since our last one.
Wow, that's great. And so what are you thinking? This is something you're going to do again next year?
Absolutely.
Outstanding. So what matches do we still have yet to come? What can we?
Well, you got Blake Robertson and Brandon Moreland in the losers still. You got Ryan and Shannon. I don't know who the other team is, Clay, besides Lewis and Bruce.
It's
well, let's just face it. It's going to be Blake and Brandon versus Ryan and Shannon.
No, you've got Nathan Winter, and Jason.
Oh, Nathan's still in. Well, that maybe not. Yeah, Nathan. You can't count Nathan out, no matter who he's playing with.
Fantastic.
I don't know why you can't, but you just can't for some reason.
So
Nathan?
What's the atmosphere in Magoo's like tonight? What's everybody having a good time?
everybody's having a good time as far as I can tell. I think the tournament was successful.
Excellent. That's outstanding. Well, it's a resurgence of foosball all over the country, and of course, Oklahoma State is now the first time in 11 years. That's great news.
Yep, we're digging it.
Well, hey, Tommy, I hate to change the subject real quick, but we had Dan Kaiser on the show tonight, and he's still there. I don't know if he can hear you, but I saw you were bummed you didn't get to see him at Moneyball.
Yes, and I also didn't get to hear I forgot about the show this week for some reason. I've had a little bit going on, but I actually wanted to hear Dan. Of course, Johnny was a guy that I followed around and watched, and I know Dan was that to Johnny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really I will be going back and listening to the show for sure.
Cool. Yeah. Solid gold stuff. I mean, Dan is just a fantastic guy, a great legendary player.
Yeah. Where did he finish in the top 50? It was in the top 10, correct?
Number 9. Number 9.
9?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that tells you all you need to know right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was only 2 spots ahead of you. I think, and that's he was a heck of a player, no doubt about it. So, Tommy, good to hear your voice, buddy. You continue on. Make sure you and Tony make sure that you slide those points back for Tony each and every time he scores, and and maybe hit a big pull shot from goal or two.
Now, Jim, the Lewis Fitch match, Tony Lewis passed really good on Tony.
Yeah,
really good.
Saw that.
Yeah,
He saw
Lewis
that.
is
Yeah,
good, man. Good player.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So
the goal got small though.
Yes, it did. I'm sure. As the match went on, it got smaller and smaller, right?
Yeah, that's Lewis's thing. He has a great 5-bar and he's fearless, but his 3-bar, he's
and especially going up against a Hall of Fame player, at goal for sure. So, hey, Tommy, great to hear that finally Oklahoma State is back. Hopefully, it'll become an annual thing. Keep up the good work. We missed you in Vegas.
When are we going to get you guys out here?
Next year. We'll do
next year.
There
next year,
2023.
Well, we got a No Pro Nationals coming up too.
Let's have a cold one. Let's have a cold one at Texas State, and we'll talk about it more. How about that?
All right, sounds good.
All right, Tommy.
Great to hear a voice, Tommy. Yeah. Take care of yourself, and really enjoy always having you on FoosTalk Live. Thanks, man.
And Clay's representing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, always.
All right.
Does he like? Yeah, he like. I think you're the only Oklahoman he likes. I'm pretty sure you're the only one. I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So far, nothing's happened to him.
So far.
It's Sunday night, though. Anything can happen.
It is.
All right, bud.
All right, thank
man.
you guys.
Take care,
see you,
Tommy.
bud.
Thank you, Tommy.
So, guys, again, what a great night. I mean, Dan Kaiser.
Man, what a roller coaster ride. We were all around football tonight. What a great show.
Yep.
Obviously honoring John and then getting to talk with one of the great players of all time. He was great. And it's always so much fun to reflect back on that era. Hear it, directly, through the eyes of these great players who remember these things so well, right?
Sure.
Maybe Dan was off on a couple of years, but the particulars were certainly there. And it's what makes this show so good. It's what I get more than anything out of this show is these kinds of interviews and being able to look back on history and hopefully continue to educate today's players.
No, I think it reflects on the future as well, because now people are starting to be more interested as to how did those guys do what they did, and now how can I duplicate that now for a successful career?
And there were so many interesting points that Dan made, though, right? I mean, it really such an insight into how he operated, in an era where every ball mattered, every match mattered, every tournament. It was amazing to hear the game through the eyes of the great Dan Kaiser. Kaiser,
no doubt.
Yeah,
Adam?
No, it was utterly amazing to hear that, because he talked about stuff, and this is a high level of Zen foosball that he was talking about, and it was said so casually, but it's a place that we hear people talk about, like Sprademan when he says, "Hey, I go home, I'm still Tony, and we hear
Yeah.
people like, it's hard to encapsulate because so many people are sitting there thinking about, what is this going to mean? What's this going to reflect on me? Blah, blah, blah. Each ball, each match. And he's like a $20,000 possession that he had. He kind of recognized that he shouldn't be thinking about it and he got rid of it.
Did you? That was amazing, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And how many times have we been there, right? Where it pops into your head and either you get rid of it or you don't, and you can somehow get back to it. The other thing he said that was so interesting is that he got into that focus as quick as he could in a match.
Right.
He said that. He said, I tried to get into it as quick as I could at the beginning of a match. And that was a couple of things that were just so insightful into what it takes to be a great player.
Wow.
It is. And, just to put a bow on that, this is something we talk about whenever we see somebody operating at a very high level. It looks like magic and it seems so simplistic.
Yep,
and I think that translates to when we hear them talk about operating at that level. He didn't say anything that doesn't seem like that offensive or weird or different, but it's such an amazing amount of high level mastery when you're not even trying.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me. It's
That's
amazing.
in any major professional sport, it's the players that do make it look like they're just having fun and it's just simple and easy. But you know what?
There's so much more going on though, right? It's really, really sublime. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
agreed.
Guys, certainly a fantastic show. Another one to put into the record books here. Episode 106, 107 coming our way next week. But thanks so much for all the for people listening in this evening. But of course, encourage your friends to download it if they haven't listened, because this is a golden one for sure.
Yeah.
And guys, we'll be back again next week. And of course, before we punch out tonight, we're going to give you a full list of upcoming tournaments with the FoosTalk Live Foosball Beat.
Foosball tournaments are everywhere. FoosTalk Live proudly presents a weekly update of.
I know. I was like, oh wait, I was listening. I'm pretty sure Tommy's supposed to call and give an update. I was like, I wasn't sure if you wanted to do it or not. I was just like, I'll tell him. California, that's a lot of respect.
The State 2022, the Players Championship, May 27th through the 30th at the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport Marriott Hotel, Dallas, Texas. Here comes the 2022 Seattle Open, June 17th through 19th at Bolero, South Seattle, 100 Andover Park West, Seattle, Washington. It's the 2022 ITSF World Cup and World Championships, June 28th through July 2nd, Nantes, France. The South Florida Foosball Club proudly presents the 2022 Beachtown Beatdown, July 15th through the 17th in Lake Worth Beach, Florida. Registration details coming soon. Don't forget the 2022 National Championship North American Cup, July 20th through July 24th. It's been moved to the Clarion Hotel and Conference Center, Lexington, Kentucky. It's the first annual Ozark Open, Sunday, August 15th, 2588 North Gregg Street, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Just announced the 2022 $10,000 Michigan State Foosball Championships, sponsored by Foos Gadgets, September 30th through October 2nd at the Hilton Garden Inn, Lansing West, Lansing, Michigan. Each week we do our best to give you the most up-to-date listing of foosball tournaments near you. If you have an event you would like to add, send us all the details at info@foosballradio.com. Tune in every week for the FoosTalk Live Foosball Beat. FoosTalk Live is a product of Inside Foos, all rights reserved. Brought to you in part by InsideFoos.com with Technoflex, Raw Block, 518 Prince, Foosballers the Movie, the USTSO, and Foosball Clubs USA. Tune in again next week for another episode of FoosTalk Live. In the meantime,
Let's keep foosing.